that believeth in me shall also do those works which I do, yea, and greater than these shall he do, for I go to the Father. 1756. That's the way it is here. To goodness you must break through. Talk to your neighbors, do good to them, do what they want more than you do. Serve, smile at people and animals, and in your heart send everyone greetings, noble thoughts, and wonderful promises. If everyone did this, our world would become very much like heaven. All of heaven smiles at you and sends greetings. Padre Pio's words. 1757. In fact, everything that is separated is at the same time a unity. Otherwise, it would scatter in disorder and wander, without logic or meaning. We are composed of an individual. Each soul is different, and all are united by one thing: pleasure. And what is pleasure? Love. Love is the greatest benefit everywhere, always and in everything. Padre Pio's words. 1758. Basically, everything is an eye, a vision. Seeing is hearing, touching, experiencing, enjoying. I am talking about the soul. The soul is vision and has everything at one point through which it perceives existence. The closest term for this is seeing. The material world is eyes. It sees everything, feels everything, tastes everything. Without seeing, one can never experience heaven. Heaven must be seen. Padre Pio's words. Beauty is first of all seeing and feeling. The soul is a marvelous entity, even if it still lives in the dense matter of the fallen cosmos. But I am sad to say, no human being has permission to see the true heaven. Even the highest civilizations in the cosmos do not have this ability. And besides, the highest ones are the most hellish, dictatorial, and perverse to God. Only free and disinterested beings can participate and play with seeing heaven. Earth is the vestibule of heaven. Padre Pio's words. 1759. The experiences we have in life, we don't really need at all, and they don't lead to anything. A blind alley. Although others try to make a philosophical path out of it, spiritual teachings and printing books in this series. Jesus never said we needed experiences. He knew for what reason we were in space, so terribly hard. Yes, we learn life from the cradle, but what does this learning lead to? To trouble, sickness, and ultimately again to death. Whatever we do in life, problems will always arise from it. And so it can be repeated ad infinitum. This purgatory lasts almost indefinitely. Padre Pio's words. So why do we live? To live for ourselves and all that? Others can replicate, clone, and give birth indefinitely. So they have God somewhere far away. Material life has no value, and Jesus spoke clearly about this. He kept repeating about self-denial, renunciation of this world, because it is not eternal and full of suffering. And the great and wise in this world say quite the opposite. They even exchange their hearts for each other 5 times to live here in this paradise. Kolkhoz. Life on earth is a kolkhoz. Padre Pio's words. 1760. The most difficult to convert the convinced and experienced in various spiritual and philosophical systems. This variant occurs most in higher civilizations than earthly. The higher, the worse it is. Great technology, they even have machines controlled by will and thought, change energy bodies. However, they are stubborn people. They do not let go. 1761. Experiences of one kind or another teach little, because we continue to live on earth. Even immediately after death, we are often born again. We like to live for ourselves in matter. It doesn't make much sense, because there is neither happiness here, nor eternal life. And even through these repetitions, we are sinking deeper and deeper. We have simply fallen into a cosmic pit and have to climb out of it. That's all. The sooner the better. Intelligence is not so cheerful in space at all. The more intelligent a person is, the more aggressive he can become, hellish in its effects. Padre Pio's words. No one needs suffering, murder, premeditated murder, jealousy, or hatred of politicians, oppositionists. It doesn't do anything. Vanity and the gibberish of the giggle of life. The mind, the soul has the task, if it realizes the situation, to get out of a hellish life that leads to nothing, only to an even greater catastrophe. Once you understand your soul, you don't need any experiences. They as life pits the soul. That's why Jesus suggested what we should strive for, and what to seek first in order to free ourselves from this completely unnecessary purgatory. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. 1762. Is it possible to live without money and have everything you need to live? Of course, it's as simple as a sunrise, like listening to music. But the establishment has developed a variant of control in order to get the most profits for themselves. How can this be done? Of course, human hubris doesn't even want to hear about it, because power and huge fortunes for a few people in this world are the most valuable. They spin business and keep the whole world in check. And the most interesting thing, no one knows these names. They stand back, and with planes and electronic links, tons of dollars are delivered to them daily. They even have their own private armies to protect their assets. It would be worth putting an end to this. It only fuels conflicts and wars. Let me give you a recipe for prosperity that is the simplest in the world and would solve everything. Just make it mandatory for all people to work 3 or 4 hours a day for free, no money. People capable of working, mature. Let the youth learn for as long as possible. It would produce so many necessary things for life that would stand in warehouses unnecessary. Food, TVs, PCs, clothes, whatever, for free. Take as much as you want. Well, how many TVs can you have in your house? 10. That's too many though. And robots harnessed to production can produce billions of them. And so in every area of the economy. All for free, no money. It could be so even from today. But the desire for power and earnings trumps this concept for now. E.g., animals or plants live this way. They don't work in the human sense, and they have everything they need to live. Some civilizations have already come to this, and this is how they live. It's a matter of looking in simple natural organization. Others have achieved this and have time to reflect, love themselves, and seek God, heaven. In our case, 10 people shake up the whole world, and we live in misery and poverty. Utopia. Now there is a utopia. Maybe someday people will lean on this project and start producing everything for free, no money. Everyone would put in their only 4 hours in various factories. The world would have everything. It is very easy to organize. Even in a monetary system, there is an overproduction of everything. No one would starve. There would be no wars, and children could be peaceful and deeply educated. Also for free. Everyone could have a house or houses, as many as they need, and the equipment for it for free. In exchange for 4 hours of work a day. Seems like utopia, but one can dream. For Pio also told me that a 4-hour workday would be enough. We work too much, he said. 1763. Human memory, human will, human expression, human talent can become a failure if they are let loose, i.e., if they are used by selfishness. Talent is currently taking the wrong direction. Everything which is done without the idea of love, sooner or later, turns against man. This can be seen in every area of organized society. We must realize that evil is produced through an overdeveloped ego. The ego has caused a scratch on the soul, a crack in it. When we realize this, we will all declare battle against evil through the production of subtle love, through virtue, and all kindness. Otherwise, it is in vain for us to go to elections, to vote for specific politicians, because we know what their election program will end up with. Whatever they say, the subtext will still be the desire for power and money. In other words, self-love. Especially in these times, you can see it like on your hand. They have sold their souls for money and do not care about the truth. They are mainly concerned about themselves. Ego prevails without any pardon. If we don't respect the knowledge of the soul, of it, that it is pure, selfless love, things will not go well in the country. There will not be a single true politician. This means creating more laws and regulations to circumvent them. Even though the best laws are written, there will still be those who will circumvent them. Padre Pio's words. Body, Lord, I apologize to you for such an imperfect body that I deserved. Today I have to live away from you in a material instead of a divine body in a shell, so difficult to overcome suffering and darkness. And at the same time, I can't utter words of praise that you gave me such a life. You knew that the best chance for me to regain the lost Union with you, Lord, thank you for this body in which I am and live, in which I enjoy and experience various joys. You gave it to me to sanctify myself in it and gain eternity, so that in the chemistry of the suffering it causes me, I may whiten my soul. 1764. There will never be a sky in our cosmos. This cosmos is destined to be demolished. Paradise was never here, Padre Pio's words, and it will be done by the angels themselves, who created it. But first they must forgive themselves and recognize God's perfection, not their own. When they are finished with civilizations, they will dismantle the universe, and God will take a broom at the end and clean up the dust of the cosmos. Evil promotes and expands itself, as does love. Often the difference is not visible. Evil is the most perfect and highest civilizations in the cosmos, with the most powerful technologies and wealth. But they do not want to admit officially that God is the most powerful and perfect in his heavenly work. So they put a dam on God. They don't want to see him in their material cosmos. Pride does not yet allow them to do so, to acknowledge God's superiority. Even in the human world, some people put themselves higher than God, such as EU commissioners, some presidents, judges, the military, police, kings, and even scientists can do so. Evil is consciousness. Evil without consciousness does not exist. This cosmos is falling apart from old age. Heaven is beyond this cosmos, in the hereafter. Heaven is and was there. We left heaven and have been wandering ever since. We need to get out of here if we care about living a happy and eternal life. All dimensions of life collapse here. The only thing that matters is the original heaven. And that's where our true home is. We left there unnecessarily, but God understands all this, and he gives everyone the hand of opportunity to return. Jesus legibly taught about it. 1765. Satanic procedures hidden in various attitudes and degrees, hidden in business, academic titles, law, technology, and above all, in the market economy, where the laws of love for own neighbor have no right, must not be activated in oneself or in society. These procedures are driving others into bankruptcy and bankruptcy, forcing people to work excessively so they don't think about stupid things. The most addictive, poisonous, and retarding substances corporations add to what is consumed commonly, i.e., sugar, bread, colored drinks, Pepsi, beer, alcohol, and cigarettes. They also sprinkle it into the water in taps. Hence so many diseases and widespread obesity. But that's not all. 1766. How dangerous are man's relationship with freedom? It is necessary to produce other knowledge so that it is normal. Self-restraint should be the subject of a high school graduation exam. This is so for a start. It should be the most important subject because it is what brings world peace and justice. And peace is universal love. 1767. Dreams are otherwise our belief in the beauty of a beautiful and eternal tomorrow, so that we can constantly splash in this beauty. 1768. The most important thing is always peace, but one that is a little creative, dreamy, grounded in love, imagination, culture, and the art of boundless love. 1769. There is no way out. Everyone must love everyone else, otherwise hell on earth awaits us. Heaven is all about loving everyone, as God loves all of us equally. Padre Pio's words. Souls get lost in this world. That's why they are ignorant. They deal with different religions, different knowledge. They argue about it. Love is one, but different colored, in which all can find their pleasures. Everyone is suited to this unity in his color of experience. The different paths on earth are because we went astray much earlier before we were even born here. We have the opportunity to rectify this now in our souls. 1770. Because of the fact that people look for facilities, which is somewhat good, they often do not want to understand those who have limitations of different nature. No one is born a saint and generally does not die a saint. But God is so good that even to heaven, he accepts the imperfect. There they will grind through, but the condition is one. They must, through life in the galaxies, on different planets, acquire only humility. The rest can already be worked out in heaven. There is only beauty and love, which will enchant everyone with its radiance. The unrepentant must still live in the material paradise they have created. Such is the strange history of the soul. The army of heaven decides what kind of souls from outer space they can let into heaven. "I have come to you with all my army," Saint Michael the Archangel once told me. 1771. You should try to make a good habit. If you are alone, riding in an elevator, in a car, on a streetcar, walking, where your mind is not too busy, try to pray at least for a moment for others. Show God all those in need of help. This is not about your joy in prayer, but about comforting others in suffering and sorrow, so that they can cope, so that they can learn faith and humility from this life lesson. And if possible, they will understand why life is so hard and who spoiled the joy of existence. Because someone spoiled it and caused the blood that nature hunts to flow in us. Straight into your eyes, what a huge flame which you cannot get rid of from the soul. The rhythm still unknown, and at the source the same. You yourself are always different, and I do not know which face I should choose because all your forms are beautiful. It is difficult to know the signs, although you shed sheaves of light, but thanks to you I can do everything. Much escapes my hands, I know, Lord, that what escapes me will fall back into your hands. 1772. The freedom and possibilities of freedom that God has encoded in ourself have sparked such intelligence in some that they wanted to force God to step down. Well, and it happened. However, God remained in his heaven, and some of his children created their own heavens, the cosmos and planets, to live on them independently of God. We became conscious atheists and inspired the aggressive nature of our private cosmic creation, a kind of zoo, for the production of happiness and energy by means of suffering, death, and reincarnation, the utopia of a selfish material heaven. We have humbled ourselves unbelievably. Nothing of this cosmic heaven of ours is left. The sheer debris of rocks, water, dust, dangerous radiation, technology to travel between meteorites, and engineered, scientifically planned, precise death. After all, death was invented by someone. It did not create itself. It was done by a secret society of angels for their own purposes. Some in space live millions of years, and some even a day. Not much, some die already in the womb of their mothers. And some animals, e.g. moths, don't even have a mouth to eat. They live for one day. This is a deliberate game and play with cosmic energy. Evil and incredibly educated intelligences, what they can plan and expose, do everything to make our world more pleasant on the one hand and kill us on the other. This is how it is in the cosmos. If we apologize to God for our hubris, a mistake, he would have taken us back to heaven long ago. But we don't even know how to apologize, because we have forgotten what the cosmos is, who created it, and for what purpose. We have been told that God created it all, this terrifying monstrosity of cosmic, intelligent, programmed death. And yet God has nothing to do with it. 1773. It is the alien religions that tell us that the cosmos is God's work, blaming all evil on him. Time further distance us from him. They do everything to make us mad at God for all the suffering and tragedies he supposedly created in the universe. This must be declassified, and then we will love God with all our heart and soul. Some people already know this and love God. Jesus knew, and so did his mother, but it was not allowed to be written down. What was written down was almost all lies for the benefit of the Roman Empire and the Church. The Church must repent because it has fallen, Padre Pio's words. It fell at the very beginning and is still stuck in its ignorance today. This was done by politicians and clergy in love with power like the pharaohs. A little bit of this knowledge the Church still possesses, but they have forgotten it because the earlier priests covered it up from the world. The words of Padre Pio. When this is declassified by the Catholic Church, there will be a slow process of true salvation of consciousness. The Church for salvation can be useful to anyone, but not necessarily the Church. Above all, it is our souls that are the truest Church. And let's hold on to that. This is what Jesus commanded. 1774. There is no need to worry too much about politics and get too deep into it. Let us take care of the light of mind and love for all the angels in the universe who are suffering and waiting as if for salvation. Let's make it not as if, but concrete good habits directing to universal love. And this saves 100% every soul, even as it wanders and yet seeks goodness. Love covers many mistakes and humiliations. Love is always loved and loves us, even when we err and yet destroy. 1775. God admits to non-believers, to evil angels, Satans, because they are his wonderful children. Conversely, all the evil children of God do not want to admit to him. They do not even want to know that he exists. Such a strange situation has arisen. But God is not about admitting to him after all. He doesn't care about that at all. He is only concerned with our welfare, so that we do not sink into evil and lead ourselves to annihilation. God has the power to dismantle the soul. For God, it's a snap of the finger and the soul is gone. God can extinguish every flame of the soul. Padre Pio's words. Remember, God once created us as perfect beings. Freedom and intelligence given to us caused some angels, some problems. Of course, they did not have to occur here. For many, they did not occur and are still in heaven. We were not successful. Evil was caused. Now we have the consequences of this. We don't even want to believe in God, let alone goodness and love, which don't work out very well for us. Nevertheless, we are still God's children. He has not crossed out anyone in the universe so far, Padre Pio's words. So we have no choice but to reach for God's hand at some point. And it is exhibited in our direction all the time. God is the best parent of the best, Padre Pio's words. 1776. You talk, love, watch, admire, adore, and remain always the same. Why? Because you are who you are. A different soul, interesting to others, which you neither gave nor designed for yourself. You are the fruit of the divine compound of eternal love. A being endowed with total freedom, and therefore an attractive mystery. You are the fruit of the love of the gods, the parents. It's a pity that Jews only recognize the Father with a beard. A very bad habit. To this day, Orthodox Jews walk around with PJs and beards as a sign of the old father. 1777. The annihilation of spiritual thoughts based on the belief in love and goodness in the human body is the greatest danger to the world. 1778. The spiritual vacuum will come alive with the light of love if we die as a shadow of unbelief and scientific knowledge. 1779. As long as you think with your brain, breathe with your lungs, and digest with your stomach, an angel you are not. So don't be so holy again, man made of the elements of the star and the earth. You are an angel when you feel, think, and process with your soul. Stomach-brain knowledge passes like the wind, which, by the way, creates dangerous hurricanes. 1780. The progress of civilization, technology, culture, all beautiful. But it is necessary to know that this does not replace salvation. Earthly culture and art are too weak to draw the soul to the ecstasy of heaven. 1781. True civilization relies on the fact that the greater the progress, better technological lines, better economic achievements, the better the will to spiritual life should be. And this is not always the case. It should. 1782. If a real angel, i.e. a human being, today dressed in animal skin, suddenly saw his selfishness, he would be very surprised and disgusted by this fact. There is still a lot of thinking ahead of us about this. 1783. Progress is modernity. This is correct. But there are still ideas and powers of the spirit that are more important than material progress. When these spiritual, heavenly powers are missing, civilization games start to bore and overwhelm us. And yet this is not what we want. Real fun does not bore. Such are only found in heaven. 1784. Truth leaves everyone free, even in untruths and lies. Truth simultaneously calls all intelligences to perfection. 1785. Love is the hardest to maintain towards the nervous, the delicious, the vindictive, the jaded with their person, the mentally ill and the irresponsible. But love bends enough to endure everything. This is its divine quality. Looking out from your window, You look up at a sky covered in a mosaic of abstractions. Heaven's happy hours came out, and I believed in God. Formerly pained eyes looked out for you in good times and bad. In the moment of sunrise and sunset, I believed that everything could come true. So the sky stooped low, very low. Rain with snow was pounding against the windows. In pain, this true shape appeared in the hour of destiny. The sky was unveiled, and beauty entered the world that I had come to know. Gabriel smiled, captivated by the plan. He rolled out his love and blessed. The slopes have turned silver. A bird's voice chirped a joyful dawn. He chirped that it was necessary to go. So grows an orchard of happiness carved with good thought among the stars. An orchard grows which takes in the same trees to grow again what is intended. 1786. Those who set an example of life to others did not succumb to the indoctrination of earthly angels, and the moral law adopted their principles of freedom and wisdom, caused us to be saved. Peace depends only on the excellence of people. The more practitioners of love and goodness, the more peaceful and beautiful the world. If we want things to go well in our country and in the world, a renewal of the spirit is needed. The lost path of perfection, the path of love, must be found. It is necessary to return to the pondering of human being, to learn anew the meaning of life. It is necessary to renew divine consciousness in society and adopt a lifestyle based on the pursuit of perfection in deeds, feelings, and thoughts. Whenever creating a culture, God must not be overlooked in the process. The idea of true love comes from God, not from man. Man only tries to reproduce the culture of God, His power, omnipotence, and infinity. This is also how the cosmos was created, unsuccessful by the way. It was modeled on heaven, but it still did not work out. Science and cleverness failed. They tried to create the universe without God, even though they drew power from divine energy to create it. But it all ended badly. Earth, the planet of constant death, the entire cosmos similarly. There is not a millisecond that someone does not suffer, that someone does not die. God is most important to end suffering and death one day. Angels, the creators of the material cosmos, will only plunge us even further into hopelessness. Only God, who like God, is what Saint Michael the Archangel said. 1787. There is a trouble quite serious, philosophical and historical, and above all a salutary trouble. It is worth understanding the reality of the fallen cosmos. Then the teachings of Jesus encrypted in the Gospels will help us return to the eternal heaven. 1788. The science of tolerance is proclaimed to the whole world. Justice, equality, intuitive truth. If it were not for this wisdom of tolerance, we would either be very backward or exterminated from this world. So everything good ultimately comes from lofty ideas and high-mindedness of words. We always listen to words and not to deeds, which most often have unrighteous intentions. In the beginning was the Word. Here is a good choice of thinking. Deeds are finite, and the Word has the power to act forever. What we sow with a word, a thought, it will reap in the galaxy as life. One way or another. It is worth keeping this in mind, so as not to prolong the purgatory of the solar system and many other planetary systems by the stars. Pull me out of analysis. Who, Lord, will free me from the world of philosophy? Who will untangle me from the analyses of psychology? Who will pull me from the persecutory mania of metaphysics? Oh Lord, this common tendency wants to tear me apart, and the mind cannot understand itself. My psyche slides through crises of love, and I lack deliverance from impulsive fantasies. Lord, if I with my sense of human spins philosophize, I have nullified my brother's knowledge, and if I atheist condemned, may I disappear in the ocean of nothingness. 1789. It's all right on earth insofar as we can suffer quite severely and pay for our evil thoughts and deeds from previous lives. This is what Padre Pio mentioned to me. Souls from different states and different parts of consciousness located to me in different regions of the cosmos and spiritual waiting rooms before the next descent, incarnation, not necessarily to this earth. They were judges, thieves, bad people, to ask for help because they cannot help themselves for the time being. They do not have the ability to do good thoughts and deeds that others would benefit from. When they died, they were separated from everything. Padre Pio, through his merits, provided them with a channel through which they could descend to us. They descended to many people, but not to everyone. I once asked about a priest I knew. He wanted to die because he was sick of it all. He was even a superior, from what I remember. Contact with Padre Pio, I think, was only by letter, and suddenly he died. I asked Padre Pio about his condition. He replied, "He rubbed up against this earth only once and went on." Another time Anna came down to me. This is how she introduced herself. She came to ask me to pray and offer her sufferings. She said that she had killed 6 of her children and knew herself that she had to pay for it. Of course, I agreed from the heart. This went on for a month. After a month again, Padre Pio brought her to me from that world, the waiting room. She thanked me very much, and she said that she was finally going to real purgatory. I will be born on earth. I asked quickly if we could meet. I was still young then, so the chance was there. She replied that no, I will be born in another country and already have a new name. Once again, she thanked me very much for my efforts and left. For the interview, Padre Pio returned. 1790. I once asked Padre Pio about a now deceased old religious brother. I knew him. He was simple and did nothing much. He sat on the wicket almost all his life, but he prayed and smiled at visitors. Padre Pio said he was a great priest. Another time I will ask Padre Pio about Father Stanislaw, who worked in Hamburg among drunks and drug addicts. He died. More than once he had to drink with them himself to be able to say anything. Padre Pio said he did a lot for them. 1791. A priest is an alchemist. He should, if he knows how, convert the bad energy of others into renewed, improved, straightened energy. Padre Pio was an alchemist. He once mentioned alchemy to me. 1792. Who can become a priest? Anyone. Woman or man, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be ordained for this. Because priesthood is all about alchemy, changing others' field of vision and expanding cosmic spiritual awareness. I was a young man, maybe 22 years old. My father said to me, "You are also a priest. Can you?" One can. Anyone can be one if he seeks and radiates the chemistry of goodness all around. Formal priesthood is a pharaonic, Byzantine ritual. It has no meaning. But for some, you can see, it is still a boast. But is such a priest educated? Is he really an alchemist? It is good for him to be. Padre Pio once told me, there is only one bishop in Poland who is a convert. The rest are known, palaces and rings, and boredom. They don't go out to the people, the erring sinners, added Padre Pio. And where is this ordained alchemy, which is supposed to change the mentality of the world, to save the world from ignorance, and bring closer the kingdom of heavenly knowledge? 1793. God always wants to help. He has noble intentions to help his children, but he can't do anything. Freedom does not allow him to interfere in our private lives. We ourselves in freedom have corrupted the codes of life. We ourselves through freedom must regain true heaven. Angels are next door. They can see, and they can't do much either, because the coloring of our thoughts still from previous lives doesn't allow it. If a saint descends from heaven and suffers on earth, he can help in various ways, such as Padre Pio. He dedicates his suffering genes and cells to others. He lays the complicated lives of others on an altar before God, begging him to relieve the person's suffering. Besides, we know and see too little for us to accept the great truths about life and everything in general. During my lifetime, I was able to help people more than now, because I suffered. Sometimes tormented and sick, I lay in a cell, and no brother even brought me a glass of water. Padre Pio's words. 1794. It can be said this way. The human, earthly, corporeal digestive system is needed to supply energy to the whole body to live in health. This is known. It is not even necessary to learn about it. Similarly, the soul has a digestive system, because it is not a perpetual motion machine. No, it's a law. If it does not benefit from the most subtle nourishment from God, it will begin to fade, sink, and scratch more and more, until God himself has to dismantle it. Padre Pio told me that if there is no hope for a soul, they annihilate. Just like people scrap robots that have screwed up and no use for them. But as Padre Pio adds, God very rarely does this, one could say almost never. But the possibility is there. 1795. Whether someone has a good memory or not is of little importance. Memory is a matter of a healthy body and proper connections of the lower consciousness with the superconscious, with the soul, which everyone in the original has, in a perfect heavenly body, which we will one day receive as a reward for loving God and His ideas of freedom. There is no problem with memory. In a world where we can't see God, we've been programmed to not remember. This is such a game of space engineers showing off their achievements. They've earned PhDs in the creation of material life and haven't let go to this day. They prefer to humiliate us with oblivion and suffering. It is not God who made us this way. God does not do such things to anyone. Did they destroy Poland? They destroyed it. Did God do it? No, someone of His children did it. The same is true of all our limited lives. Such strange designs as DNA, some fatal neurons in the brain, gray cells for hire, and so at every turn there is a serious limitation. Freedom of soul and body taken away. 1796. Life research, scientific achievements and discoveries cannot be ignored, especially by those people who already love God openly. But on the other hand, neither can one ignore the secrecy that the masters of the cosmos have reserved for themselves, for such is their humble will. We can elude them from this prison of the galaxies only by loving God and learning about everything, as much as anyone can, in order to achieve the greatest wisdom of life. And this wisdom leads to eternal happiness. In this world, even if a genius strains his senses as much as possible, it still won't do anything. This world is doomed. Such is the design of world-building engineering. This is where everything begins and is about to end. We can no longer avoid this event machine. Some scientists say that they are close to discovering the eternity gene in the human body. This is not true. There is no such assumption that there will be an eternal heaven here. Nothing will come of it. Yes, in the past people lived and 10,000 years each, but now they don't. The soul can slip through all the energy systems of the body as it remembers God and His eternal, attractive world. 1797. Only two things would effectively save the world from the misfortunes caused by various states of mind: a simple remembrance of God and a simple desire to progress in good. So little to do and such great and wonderful effects on the world. The words of Padre Pio. 1798. All of us who are born on earth, fit and unfit, have come down here to find God and remember heaven. That, at least, is the will of our souls. But the assumptions of the supervisors of the cosmos may differ from this intention. Rather, they perpetuate us in the belief that there is no God and heaven is here, on the galactic lands. They only have such a plan for us because they can't give up their scientism or hubris. The same, moreover, as on Earth with some scientists. They prefer to persist with their rationale, even though everyone has already discovered the meaning of what they live for. And they tell people that their discoveries are the most important. Geneticists, the designers of our bodies, have the same thing. A vain satisfaction with the knowledge they have gained from other spoiled angels. Trials and experiments. 1799. Knowledge, learning, discovery, doctoring. It's all fun. Nothing serious here. There is nothing serious in life at all, because seriousness does not exist. Life is fun both in heaven and on earth. On the earths of space, this fun is a little worse. It does not always succeed. Fatigue and moods in space dominate. There is nosiness and jealousy. There are not very favorable conditions for salvation here. But to try all the time we must, because otherwise where will we go? Salvation, it's a different way of having fun. Fula Horak also talked about this. 1800. Everyone returns to God differently, by a different path, and has different sufferings. But it all comes down to one thing: the pleasures of life. This is what we were created for. Suffering is an accident unforeseen beforehand. We have to deal with it, preferably with the help of one life. 1801. The mind is a laboratory of life, not a manipulated tradition. No human knowledge, except mystical knowledge, has a recipe for generating spiritual flourishing, striving for eternal life. Only God can help us with this scientific spiritual knowledge. Cosmos scientists are burned, cooked, relegated to titles, PhDs, and habilitation. What a humiliation before God, who said, "Wisdom belongs to the little ones, not to the wise men of this world." Science is not bad, but hubris and ignorance spreading around it sows bad things. 1802. Knowledge and affection for love are the vehicle of fairy tales and the attraction of goodness. 1803. If it weren't for the souls who descend from heaven to earth from time to time with their noble love, if it weren't for them and a few yogis radiating love and goodness to the whole world, the evil angels would destroy the entire population of souls in the flesh. The Rosicrucian order, the mobs, the Freemasons in concert with a certain nation, are strenuously destroying this planet. They even carved on a certain famous stone how many people there are supposed to be on Earth, so that they can be perfectly controlled. There are supposed to be only 500 million of them. Pharmaceutical corporations, mostly Jewish, have already begun to poison people with pills, vaccines. Modified food is also their work, etc. Diseases after chemical pills are practically irreversible. And let me remind you, the queue to be born on Earth is sizable. From different planets they want to be born here, because they know that with us you can quite at ease and freely experience material and spiritual life. They want to come down here from planets by other stars. There is currently no civilization in our solar system except the one on Earth. There used to be, yes, there is life by our sun outside the Earth, in one case already, on the moon of Jupiter, but this is a different life, Padre Pio's words. So let's not let the evil angels forbid them to be born here. Ahead of the galaxies, before their civilizations return to heaven, a lot of experience is yet to come: philosophy, science, art, utopia, and love. The return of the soul to heaven always begins with materialism and atheism, then through culture, art, etc. Padre Pio's words, and then it's downhill from there. All this adds up to the desire to return to eternal life. There is no other way. We ourselves have spoiled life. We ourselves must seek ways to return to the original Padre Pio's words at the talks. This is suggested even by Plato and the universal Jesus. 1804. Science, progress, and life are not separated from God, although universities hide this fact with persistence all the time. On the contrary, science, discovery, curiosity, genetic engineering, anti-gravity engines, travel through space-time. This is God, but certainly not Jewish, nor Hindu or Buddhist, and certainly not Arab. Quite different. Love and goodness itself. Nothing is possible without Him. Without God's energy, no nail or hair will grow, nor are we able to blink an eyelid, let alone the flirtations of earthly or heavenly love. Whoever separates God from science is still far in its infancy, or is already as a preserved professorial mummy. A mummy useful for nothing, neither for conversation, nor for love, nor for progress. Without God there is nothing, not even the infernal planets. God's power, knowledge, and energy are also used for evil. When we understand this, we will get rid of pride. Then only will we join the celestials, their beautiful life in harmony and eternal happiness. 1805. The deepest reason for not controlling own nerves is ignorance of the nature of God. In short, the reason for nerves is spiritual laziness, a failure to seek God. We prefer other experiments, more tangible through the body than through the soul. Padre Pio also told us about spiritual laziness. 1806. One who has come to know the nature of God through the efforts of mystical intelligence and prayer has at the same time come to know his present incomplete position. With such cognition, a person will strive to rise to a higher level of perfection. Although he doesn't have to, because he has free will. But probably only by a miracle could he abandon this, with such a recognition of his existence. Then he would knock himself in the head why he avoided progress for himself. 1807. Patience is a pillar of peace for the individual person, as well as for both society. In the crevices of personality. For the sake of truth recognition, kingship is the greatest amplitude of perfect freedom. Getting into disputes happens to be a decomposition of the most important disclosures of human existence. The phenomenon that splits the links of resurrection rate is known only to scientific mystical experience. Physical size does not play an essential role here. True durations in the learned certainty of destiny are a thick shield against the radiation of quanta of distrust. Group waves of theories on the purpose of life are ripped in intensities of reliability of desires, realizing all that is created in purity to truth. Endurance speaks that hope for everything is needed. Explaining causes is a noble deed of the strongest intelligences. Therefore, the nature of reverence for the essence of life in the love of the incentives of self-building is understandable. 1808. We also know a strange love, and that's what we call it sometimes, but this love should not be called love. In this love we love only our ego. This is not love but pure selfishness. Imperfection. If this is the kind of love that prevails in the world, then security is at risk. Competition will smash everything. The race for better will clash with what is most subtle in a person. That's why it's so important to raise and educate for true love, not for fighting. Life is paralyzed by fear and apprehension. These are taken solely from self-obsession, exposing the ego. Actually, it can be said that suffering in the world is the result of the egoism of angels on earth and in space, on different planets, by different stars. Slavery in the past, empty democracy without noble attitudes today. The politics of money, party fights, the struggle for stools and power. Competition between companies, all this forces egoism and fuels selfishness. Fighting for own ego only demeans our divine origin. Not the ego, but the soul and the good should be the goal of our eternal interests. 1809. One doesn't have to recite the prayers and the rosary. It's enough to remember God during the day and raise a few soaring acts to Him, so Padre Pio told me. 1810. The world for the better will not be changed even by good political, economic moves or party agreements. Because even if all this is implemented, God willing, there will still be those who want to tear it down. So this is not where the revival of society lies. Society must be reborn in homes and education, because there the upbringing of the younger generation can be most effectively controlled. Upbringing is supposed to consist of raising awareness of noble attitudes, but not on the basis of drill, but of love and setting a good example. And if such teaching of spirituality were extended to all schools and families, the happiest situation on earth would follow. Then 4/5 of humanity's pointless and unnecessary activities would cease to exist. They would be replaced by positive, people and environment-friendly activities. Mankind would think more about how to serve others more selflessly, how to make someone happy and not unpleasant. Difficult to achieve, but possible. 1811. If a person so sincerely focused on honest, intuitive truth, he would understand with clarity that the balance in the world does not depend on politics, economics, ideology, or art. All this superstructure is the result of ignorance of the true perfection of being. If God were known, money, laws, administration, management, languages, and even life on this fallen planet would be unnecessary. If it were understood that the balance of the world is spirit, human life would take on other dimensions. Borders, politics, economics, usury, percentages are all the result of human ignorance and imperfection. The greater the deviation from love, the more laws and substitutes for imbalance in the form of money, fake media, transient toys, and stupefying books, rubbish. The degradation of spirituality has gone so far that it is said that the world is ruled by money, not love. The balance is hidden in the human soul. What happens in the world depends on it. When one hides the soul, the struggle for power and influence dominates. Everything negative is the result of the expansion of the ego. 1812. Spiritual knowledge is incomparably more powerful than the best material knowledge. That's why it's important to know that any peace will collapse if the rulers of states are unable to love and pursue transcendence personally. Political peace has never yet been authentic peace. Fortunately, today, through observation of humanity's bad experiences, it is seen that spiritual knowledge is indispensable in life, including the knowledge of loving own neighbor. It has been seen that without knowledge of the soul, it is impossible to build peace in the world. Rising, I know, Lord, that you act mightily, and I have no illusions about your graciousness. I fear nothing. My sins, you forgive me because I am your eternal child. Thanks to you I rise again from the grave of my own habits I was hiding, but your lightning reached me. It slumbered in me, and as if in a dream, awoke in a new conception and view I am, and in vain I wish for death, for I begged you for that which makes life possible. 1813. Instead of focusing thoughts on the mind and soul, they were scattered into the outside world. Even such important undertakings of space research have been placed in a state of closed knowledge. Everything is seen phenomenally. One must first notice the core of things, and this is most difficult for the mind of the body. The soul has no trouble with this, but it is so far withdrawn by material nature that it can even be said not to exist. At this reflective moment, atheism is born, and rightly so, because how else, when neither God nor the soul can be seen or touched? The truth is astonishing, and at times difficult. 1814. World peace and high technology, knowledge, and the power of goodness come not from politics, not from systems, not from achievements, but it depends on achieving harmony within ourselves, through the love of the heart. It is not on material goods that a person's life depends, Padre Pio's words. So what if gadgets have been developed that we can already move with our thoughts? Brain waves respond to our thoughts, caught in a helmet on the head and amplified. They give such possibilities. In Japan, every child already has this and plays with drones moved by thought. All you have to do is focus and the drone takes off. Hocus pocus. Absolutely not. It's all biophysics of fallen angels. It means nothing and nothing at all. There is no soul salvation in it. But you can play with it as you have been doing for centuries anyway, with the steering wheel and foot pedal in the car. Thought placed in our leg, it gives power on the highway. Bioenergy is the same as pulling a bucket of water from a well. There are no differences. The difference is made by the still reigning ignorance of the soul. Volumes of studies are being written, and everything will still come down to the fact that you have to eat, pee, and those few other things. The soul is a completely different world. 1815. Heaven is beyond this world. Nevertheless, the earth has something of heaven, because it was created somewhat along the lines that the angels remembered from God's creation of their souls. As we know, freedom caused them to leave heaven and start combining with the cosmos. The phenomenon called cosmos turned out to be hell for us. We live in hell, and how to get out of it? There are ways, but for very insightful and humble minds. Jesus the Universal talked about it, but the Gospels didn't even record it. Politics and complacency about perfidious otherness have won the world over. When will we notice it? Wiesław had such a spirit. He understood the fiction of science and religion. He was a pure spirit in the flesh. Fula Horak spoke about Wiesław at talks in Zakopane, 1816. A patient person is closer to the truth. It is necessary to take an example from such people. God is super patient. He is pure love for all. 1817. Don't expect holy patience and the knowledge of divine nature contained in it from people who are heartless, who criticize totally for the sake of criticism and disappointment, from people who are indifferent, jealous, from people who do not believe or even believe in God, from people who have no other profession than blindness and a bullish rush to power. Because these people have little to do with patience, honor, and truth of heart. A man is only a man, Padre Pio's words, 1818. Few people realize that we live on earth under occupation. There are civilizations from other stars that rule here invisibly. They choose certain individuals to carry out their plan on earthlings. We call them aliens, demons, genetic scientists, variously. Either way, they are our colleagues from the past, when we were still partying together with God in heaven. One wishes we could be there together again. In the end, this will happen, but how much suffering we have to go through now, only one God knows. And all because of stubbornness, not letting go, because of the unmercifulness and misunderstanding of God, to whom the freedom He has given us has tied His hands. 1819. You need to know that at any time and in any place, the effects of impatience provide the human person with bad experiences. Anger harms beauty. Impatience is born of anger. But how is it possible to be patient when we are being scolded? I admire Jesus. He even let Himself be beaten on the face and endured it. But people similar to Him, murdered by the communists or Germans, behaved similarly. They did not succumb to the false monster of evil, the ideological hybrid of religion, of knowledge and power. Focal points of meaning. Great dialogues, Lord, have focal points of meaning. You know when I should speak and what words to use to announce your justice. Everyone raises their hands to you and everyone receives theoretical answers, but actions fall into destabilizing mechanisms. Lord, you are the only judge, and we have no right to make judgments without your authority or sentences, without your help. Reveal to us, Lord, your hidden assumptions, and we will be better off. 1820. The trap of life programmed by the engineers of the fallen cosmos is biology, matter, nature, and the broken light we see with our eyes. That's why the sun is glaring at us and can kill us. It is not only the light that they have spoiled, but also our connections to the soul. The senses of the body blind us to God in heaven. The bad connections of energy particles, which were also a mystery to the angels in the beginning. They couldn't handle the energy they falsely processed like unhealthy food stuffed with chemicals today. They did this seemingly for the sake of. We lied and fell for ourselves. Let's remember, by the way, these rebel angels are us and other races in the universe created independently of God, who are still alive, developing. However, few are returning to the Father's house. For now, a small handful of angels are returning to heaven. They have to find out for themselves what they have lost. Too thrilling is the cosmos, the possibilities, and the beauty in it. Thrilling because we have forgotten how fantastic heaven is. But this will change through the next millions of years. Jesus didn't settle everything. This is a church's ravings. The end of the world will not be for a long time yet, Padre Pio's words. Not until the angels, the space races, get wise. As the last wanderer, an angel will leave the cosmos voluntarily. Then there will be the end of the material project. 1821. We are constantly living in danger. You forget to clean the chimney in your wonderful house, smoke will kill your whole family along with you. You don't set up a lightning rod, a shot from the clouds will burn down your apartment, etc. Our lives hang in the balance all the time. You never know if you will return home from shopping. Walking, a brick may fall on your head, or an Islamic fanatic will blow everything up. When you go on vacation by car, the streets become a training ground for death, and so everywhere. Every 4 seconds a suicide is committed in the world. Wasn't Jesus right to complain about this world? Warning how it is stained with advanced space science and anti-culture ego. 1822. Wisdom is most often foolishness to the unwise. 1823. We are at a moment where human thought has grown above the clouds, and conflicts are taking on an ever-increasing scope. However, something has been forgotten here. It has been forgotten for the sake of progress that peace cannot be guaranteed by political or technical means. For many centuries, politics has been made, modern technology has been created, and problems have been increasing. One must focus inward. There is the solution to everything. The soul is the heart of love and happiness. Outside, in the world, there is a struggle for food and influence. The soul does not have to fight for anything. It has the divine energy of love and all prosperity, which can flow peacefully into this world as well. This needs to be learned from her throughout earthly time, to be learned from her. With God all things are possible in you. Padre Pio's words, 1824. As long as we are placed in the nerves, in the body, in the brain, mistakes always happen. After all, we are entrapped by science, expressed in self-love, the ego. So anything can happen to us. Tolerance and understanding for any scientist. A spiritual beggar. Despite everything. 1825. Divinity is our only heavenly family and parents, which begat us as souls covered with heavenly flesh. Earthlings are only similar to celestials. They lack a lot. 1826. There is no denying that an overly materialistic understanding of life, blind consumerism, has decided to close off from us the knowledge of our own soul and the subtle, beautiful body surrounding it. What has been exposed is mainly the knowledge of the sensual body, scientific, technical. Earthly materialism overlooks spiritual processes. It is painful that despite a highly developed civilization, it is still backward, blind, and does not see eternity, God, and with Him eternal fun. Souls prefer to celebrate New Year's Eve somewhere in the galaxies. 1827. Let's try to make a great festival out of life. Just know the assumptions, and the fun of life will come out for everyone. Fun does not need to be provoked, because it is written into our soul. Joy and pleasure of existence are the foundation. And there is not the slightest reason to change this with some taboo, religion, law of the minister of justice. Making connections is a favorite, exquisite our sharing of joy, and a wonderful subject to catch sparks of fascination. The soul, that is, our consciousness, is an incredible wealth. It is receptive to the present in eternity. And it will always crave something. It will never rest. Its problem is only our tiring body. But she will overcome that too, when she sheds this uncomfortable shell and puts on new clothes and the ring of infinity. A great prospect lies ahead. 1828. There it is anyway. Extravagance, eccentricity, meddlesomeness surround us in almost every human contact. How much licentiousness, fiction, delusions, appearances, lies, foolish criticism, crazy religiosity, unreal ideas incompatible with reality. How much illusory fantasy passing among us. How is true love supposed to take place here? Where is the talk of selfless love, selfless pleasures under such conditions? The truth about the created and failed world is getting closer and closer to us. And yet souls wallow in finitude and close their dreams to lovers and family, which will all die anyway, after all. If we already dream and plan, then in eternity, and not in the reality of the broken particles of the universe. There is no eternity in this world. Every black hole is falling apart. Every sun, star, every atom is aging and dying. Although seemingly the world is renewing itself, the destructive force is much stronger. The reason? Because the power supply is snapped. Instead, a method of obtaining energy through metabolism has been developed. And the world's biggest killer, the digestive system of biological organisms, has been harnessed for this. There is perpetuated, forced killing to survive and matter. We have disconnected ourselves from God. We have a lack of vision and a lack of free energy that would allow us to exist forever. Salvation is for us to touch the feet of God again and receive eternal energy. In this world we are losers, we will die. But with love and imagination, let us work on the fairy tale of meeting God. After death, if we love His ideas with all our hearts, He will not let us down. He will change all material atoms into spiritual ones, and we will be able to live forever again, already without a digestive system. But not in human galaxies, but in perfect galaxies with God, in heaven. 1829. Life is a self-reactor, initiated in the creation of our soul. And there is no need to constantly focus on this process. It just needs to be used for happiness. The more we use it, the better. This is its purpose. The soul is a life of pleasure, a fairy tale invented by God. Under cosmic conditions, there have been problems with it. But they are temporary. This world will end, and life will again return to a charming fairy tale, as it was in the beginning. 1830. God does not divide, but gave freedom. And with it is the most happiness and problems. Even heaven has reached it, because some people have left Him. but they will come back, wiser. That's us. 1831. The nature of our soul is eternal. Although we now live in mortal bodies, the soul does not particularly feel the old age of the body or death. It lives as if nothing is happening. In general, the soul always feels young. Therefore, each of us lives as if we already live forever. Death is just a dream. The plugs from the soul are turned off, and the senses are extinguished. The new life of the soul begins. Finally, the fairy tale life that the soul has longed for all this time while in the body. Does the soul have a body after death? Of course, the soul always needs the world to create, so it needs a body. But it is a world and a heavenly body, completely different from the earthly one. 1832. What is most intriguing is that it is not possible to directly contact our parents, also sometimes referred to as God the Father, as envisioned by the Jewish people, where the idea of the Father came from. Although not exactly, because even before that, there was such a push to abolish polygamy. The Jews, as usual, stole the idea from others and created for themselves a father with a beard, without a woman. Because a woman in their ideology of conduct did not count at all. So the silence is intriguing. No one speaks, empty in the ears and soul. You say the Our Father, and there is silence, silence. What is the reason? Surely there is some. It needs to be deciphered, if only by empty prayer, to be here. Existence is a catalogue of ideas, a novel, a favorite metaphor, and a kind of proverb. Yet it is more than that, an understanding qualitatively privileged future. And everything here is full of traps. What is different outside the world? There is the fullness of the soul's shapes. 1833. Everyone must save themselves on their own. And it won't help you if you fly to church and take communion every day. The wafer is really the cosmos, and the wine is the water in the cosmos. That was the symbolism of the Last Supper, alchemy. The point is for us to understand and find a way to overcome our DNA and all the structures of matter, so that we never have to be born here again as mortal biological beings of the cosmos. 1834. Salvation has always existed before Jesus too. God is not a madman. Billions of years of angels agonizing in different corners of the universe, and suddenly now he wants to save everyone. No, it's not like that. The angels consequently created an evil world, and God immediately gave them a hand, preserving their freedom. There was always a chance to return well, before the Jews were created. The moment the universe was created, there was salvation at the same time. The opportunity to abandon dangerous experiments of spiritual engineering. In the past and today, one can return to the delightful and eternal heaven. Salvation is available to every angel, atheist angel. It doesn't matter who you are or what religion or organization you are in. The door is open. But some secrets have to be deciphered, because we are very precisely coded against God as his adversaries. This has to be broken. Play as a hacker of yourself, find the passwords for your meticulously covered in the body soul, and everything will become clear. The brain to break the body's codes also comes in handy. But above all, you need to ask God for the passwords. He knows them all, which material nature has served us through its creators, the angels. True mercy is the knowledge that God can give us to understand the drama of the cosmic odyssey, and how to free ourselves from it. Sister Faustina understood this, but she couldn't write this anymore, because she would have been expelled from the order. And she suffered so much from her superiors. She had to modify her writings all the time, and then write in such a way that none of the church hierarchy would catch on. Such were the times. Her talk of hell is false. Church, 1835. Man develops when he already knows how to sum up all private and social experiences in the treasury of the phenomenon of his spirit. As long as a person is a human being and has nerves, what they think, then he must learn many things to organize his bodily life surrounded by a network of thoughts, which are generally related to material needs. This is also important. But the aliens, the fallen angels, are only happy that we duplicate their programs for creating a hellish life, full of suffering and exile into an extremely confusing and secret world. The wise are able to break free from this indoctrination and switch to other thinking. They abandon thinking with their hands and start using their souls. 1836. The meaning of everything is eternal. It is only necessary to look at the whole maturely with faith and hope. Although the whole in the sense of the universe has been misconstrued, that is why we have so many problems at every stage of our lives. It was even Pope Francis in Krakow who said that we are all sinners and suffering is everywhere. Currently, not only was it once at Auschwitz, it is also now. Problems are at every turn. It is apparent that this world sucks, to put it colloquially. Even Pope Francis could not answer why young children are getting seriously ill and dying of cancer. He stated that he doesn't understand it, but yet there is an adequate understanding. It is enough to dig solidly in the Vatican libraries, especially in those hidden writing positions. There, something relevant can be found, but it can also be found without these libraries. Seek, and ye shall find. 1837. When it is said that love is patient, it should be understood that love comes from God, who is perfect in everything. So he is also perfectly patient. He has a very long time and has been patiently waiting for billions of years for his angel children to return to heaven. He has prepared for them magnificent palaces much more beautiful than in the galaxies, created by themselves. So he has patience and above all, love. Therefore, he waits and sends secretly into the material cosmos in each epoch a couple of people from heaven to keep hope alive in discouraged angels. Hope and light for a better life is needed in the fallen galaxies. Hope for a better and more peaceful life lifts the spirit. 1838. Consciousness created this Bible of ours, and consciousness must overcome its Jewish lies. I always say that the Hindu scripture is 1,000,000 times more interesting and healthier. In India, although there are also lies, because paper will accept everything, yet the spirit of truth has remained in it the most. The words of Padre Pio. 1839. This is worth thinking about. Priests are one big conceit, as is secular authority. But it doesn't have to be that way at all. Treasure. You are to be love, like July nights with tenderness, like a lilac smile with the sun, orange in memory, and as strong and firm as mountain rocks. A forgotten grimace should not appear on your face. Continue to send stars, send fragrance into my heart, so that I can, without prejudice, lend a hand to everyone to know how to love me. Broken in spirit, let these desires flow from pure springs, from the starry vestibules let this rapture of destiny gush forth. Thou hast said, Lord, to the violent is due treasure. 1840. Whoever blindly obeys human laws is automatically doomed to the temptations of the world. Many laws are badly written, not even human laws. There is too little warmth and tolerance in them. Secular or ecclesiastical authorities always write laws under themselves to have a hook into others. It is best to have an alternative in spirit and not succumb to the fashion of moral or economic and social regulations that make life difficult. Leaders of states and even entire nations succumb to these temptations. However, a person can feel the spiritual life within himself. To what extent and how he will feel this spiritual life depends on himself. From a small fire, a great fire can flare up, as long as one progresses on the path. Man has grown philosophically faint. He no longer feels the joy of everything, and his happiness ends when he sees the freedom and pleasures of other souls. Something still needs to be worked through here, I think, to become love itself. The words of Padre Pio. That's why it's so difficult to save ourselves, because we don't know how to enjoy and love all other souls without limits. If we condemn someone, reject someone, we already have a problem with love. If we reject sex because we prefer asceticism, we already have a problem with love. We don't always have to feel pleasure in order to give the other person that pleasure. This is love. Love is beyond canons, attitudes, laws, and regulations. Love is a mystical juggling act, and it has to be learned without getting bitter. Love is eternal fun. In the galaxies, this fun is interspersed with upheaval and suffering. We still have to be here until we die. Then if we do well, free love without rules and norms will begin. guided by imagination, tender feelings, and all the art form of love. 1841. I also spoke with Saint Sylvester through Padre Pio. He said that he is in favor of having reflections at the end of the year rather than parties in honor of his feast. 1842. This world cannot be treated as an object of worship. Otherwise, it will become difficult to meet the original world created by God, heaven. The Bible is alien worship for this world. This is difficult to understand after the indoctrination of the priestly elite of the church, which took its example and knowledge from Sumer and the pharaohs. And they were not so holy again. 1843. The world devours pure consciousness, providing knowledge and experiences that do not allow divine consciousness to develop. The most important scientists in the cosmos are to blame for this state of affairs, and ourselves in part, because we do not turn to God for help. We believe most in the current state of affairs. Yes, it is important, but there are things that are most important to take care of, so that we don't die anymore. To be able to play and smile forevermore. 1844. I once asked Padre Pio about music in general. He said, "They have music in heaven. It is so beautiful. Earthlings do not yet know these sounds." 1845. Science has caused suffering in the universes. But the first cause was the freedom given to all angels by our parents called God. 1846. Jewish religion, without the feminine energy, the head of which is still called today the Jewish father with a beard. Another manipulation of the Semites. 1847. The aliens are trying to cover up Jewish manipulation because we have gotten a little out of their control. Therefore, today they delude us with knowledge, doctorates, habilitation, money from it, power, democracy, or other systems of oppression. Matter or money takes care of everything related to the soul of man. We sell everything for money and usury. Usury and interest were invented by the Jews, not Islam. And with that they conquered the whole world. Their banks are everywhere. 1848. We used to live on Satan's high planets, where comfort reached almost to delight. But without God and compassion, but with dictatorship and pseudo-freedom. We rebelled against them, so they expelled us from their environment, dressing our souls in biological robots' bodies. Such digestion and killing machines. They arranged our DNA to control us in exile, a true paradise in paradise lost. That's why we have problems every day, as long as blood flows in our veins. Salvation. I guess that's the best way to liberate ourselves from dictatorship and suffering. 1849. The fallen angels have created human civilization for us, and since then we have been swept away, as souls caught up in an extremely subtle energy that can tell us nothing about the reasons for the disaster. They tempt us with a wonderful life, wealth, freedom, etc. And at the same time they tell us to kill animals, people, to wage wars, to take revenge on opponents, to tear out the hearts of those in love. Such are the scientists, what created this material world. They completely fail to cope. Completely. They are lost and messed up. They have lost the will to pursue God, even though they know He exists. Padre Pio's words. When will it end? Someday it will end. The end of this world was no mystery to the greatest philosopher and connoisseur of life, Jesus the Universal. I would add, every soul saved is already universal. Some living on Earth or on other planets have long been saved and are universal. But they live only to help liberate the robe of this world, Satan, from its limitations. And it is stubbornness and pride. They do not forgive. Padre Pio's words. No questions and answers. There's that theme again. I was gripped by silence for days. An hour goes by in which no question has been asked, no ray of confidences has emerged from the soul. Why is my inside silent? Why doesn't the heart raise any questions? I don't feel liberation. On the contrary, suffering deepens my wounds. What did it focus in me? Lord, I dare not even ask. I dare not. I don't know my sentences. I am not given to know the future. Insecure arteries pulsate. However, a voice comes to me that is sort of beyond the word limit. However, I don't know what it is. In this voice the future and the past contained. But will I discover these mysteries vast? Lord, Though the silence has reached my lips, it is you, Lord, who knows me and reads in my heart. 1850. Look at Jesus, at his ideas. Look with the eye of faith and hope far into the future, into heaven, which is constantly waiting for you. And you will stop fighting over small things. About property, possessions, about how you should dress, what tasty food to eat, who to interview today. Yes, these things are and are happening, but they are not that important to us. Maybe specific, but really not important. Because galactic life on this planet, your personal life, is coming to an end, and all realized material dreams you have to give to others, or they will be consumed by bacteria and destroy. And here again I praise the universal soul of Jesus, who gained a sharp vision of these matters by saying, "Do not treasure for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust spoil, and where thieves undermine and steal. But treasure for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust spoil, and where thieves do not undermine or steal. For where your treasure is, there is your heart also." 1851. Don't worry too much about the world, which will soon pass away and you won't see it again. When you find yourself in heaven, you are unlikely to have much to do with this world. Although not entirely. If the urge comes to you to help angels on different earths in different galaxies, you can do it, even be born there with good intentions. Out of love you will do it, to contribute to the salvation of the universe in it, inhabited by the strangest angelic civilizations. The point is to bring the last inhabitant of the cosmos to leave these worlds and go to heaven. A small digression. God created a limited number of his children. Part of them remained in his heaven, and part of them decided to seek their heaven. Padre Pio's words, creating the cosmos, we are in it. Since souls have the possibility of reincarnation, it seems to us that there are an infinite number of us. After your death you will continue to help. Padre Pio's words. 1852. Our souls are receptive for eternity. People feel it and think about it sometimes. 1853. However, the truth is covered up for many. Huge ships of alien angels orbit the earth and watch over widespread philosophical, spiritual, and practical backwardness. 20 years ago, Padre Pio said, "A few yogas keep this earth in existence." Why? It doesn't make sense, of course, but it is certain that this is happening so that souls can still descend here and liberate themselves. There is a queue for incarnation on earth, the words of Padre Pio. However, earth is a vestibule of heaven. That's why they make sure that no one escapes their terror of freedom and democracy. The illusion of prosperity, behavior wanting happiness by force. A failed system of material energy on the spiritual merry-go-round of emotions.